Liberal Democrats, you will know, will have something of a bit of an anarchy reputation for wanting to protect open space. That's something that we have historically been very proud of and we continue to be. Just a few of the points that have been raised by the letters that have been so carefully compiled by Mr McCarran in particular. Trees, open spaces, parking capacity, a commitment to carbon neutral and sustainable buildings. These are all something that Liberal Democrats are passionate about. You'll know that people like Pam Brown over time have demonstrated Liberal Democrats' commitment to open space in the rest of our constituents, or particularly in Hastings Borough. But I want to tell you that Liberal Democrats consider this sort of issue, as well as our fishery over in Old Hastings, to be the kind of heritage and cultural issues that we should be really getting behind. And I urge you to get behind STAG on this. We believe that regeneration should embrace our heritage, not desecrate it. In terms of the financial issues that were raised about Gladedale, I don't know why I'm looking back here. Anyway, they were there, the financial issues raised about Gladedale. We in the Liberal Democrats, we have lots of lessons with Vince Cable, and are told to be very careful of companies that are very, very big in the housing bubble. I am very concerned particularly about the implications of the position of Gladedale in respect to all the other regeneration projects that are going on around the town, and I will be doing my best as a parliamentary candidate for the Liberal Democrats at the general election in the time before that to be making myself as aware as I can of what is the true implications of their particular financial situation.
Well, I can speak as a Central St Leonard's councillor, which doesn't actually include the Archery Ground quite, but includes the western side of St Leonard's Gardens and Mayfair. But I can also speak as a resident of St Leonard's, and indeed a Birch St Leonard's. So I feel these issues just as strongly as any of you do, both as a resident as well as a councillor. I do congratulate the organisers for getting 200 people, which I think must be here. We certainly don't see that. 200 people is also about the depth of examination you've done, because Martin sent me an email. Well, didn't send me an email actually, he sent me an email with about 25 attachments, which I did read actually, and I tried out of that to ask a sensible question with a number of points to planning officers, trying to draw on the information he gave me. And it was very, very valuable to do that. And it drew out some of the points that I'm afraid the planning officers are likely to put forward, but I can't say exactly what they're going to say. Now, can I just say one thing? This isn't in any way to put anybody on the spot, but you should be very cautious about political parties saying what they're going to do on a planning application. And there's a reason for that, because political parties have a general view, a national view, or a view about what's needed for Hastings, and that's great. And you might say that particular parties are more predisposed to want affordable housing or higher density or whatever. But no political party can say they are against that planning application, and that their councillors on the planning committee will therefore vote against it. Because if they did so, and if that application was therefore rejected, then I guarantee you the developer would win on appeal hands down. Because they would go to appeal and they would say, the planning committee met, and those people, they'd already told us well before, they'd all made their minds up. Because the way that planning works, whether we like it or not only from the standing orders of Hastings Borough Council, but national planning legislation, is that a planning committee meets somewhat like a jury and therefore has to hear the case, the evidence on the day, has to study the issues and come to a considered view. People may come to that considered view based upon their general political outlook of wanting development, wanting affordable housing, wanting more development in that area, or whatever, but they cannot and must not say in advance. So no political party can say, we as a political party and our councillors on the planning committee, don't worry, we're all against it, because they're not. And they cannot say that, and should they say that, they would be putting themselves and the whole local authority in a very exposed position. Because not only would the planning applicant win on appeal, the council would pay their costs. So it won't happen like that. What you have to do is you have to put forward an equally considered view to all the members of the planning committee about why you feel, 250 odd people here, the petitions, all the letters, why you feel this application is inappropriate. The key issue on inappropriateness, I would say, is the level of density. I'm not against high density, because high density in Hastings Old Town is very attractive, and in my personal opinion, I don't want to live in a two-garaged, detached house up near Bannatynes, which is very low density. So density in and of itself is not necessarily a bad thing. It's a question of the quality of design that goes with it, and its appropriateness in the setting in which that development is taking place. Therefore, on this case, we could say the density being proposed compromises that application because it doesn't fit in with the historic nature of the Burton St Leonard's area, and to get that density on that site, therefore the parking issues, the lack of amenity space, the lack of green space has all been sacrificed to maximise the number of units on the site. That, in my opinion, is your planning objection to this application. That's what you have to concentrate on. Others may have more knowledgeable on planning, may have other thoughts. But you have to concentrate on the key planning issues upon which you can argue against this application. If the application is then turned down, it goes to councillors after all, and they will have to listen to the points you make and to the size of the petition and the number of people who turn up in the planning committee meeting to get your point across, all those things. If it is defeated, then I think the point that Burton St Leonard Society is very valid. I think if it's defeated, because the council has accepted, council planners have accepted, this site, or Burton St Leonard's, is of national significance, then if this application can be defeated on well thought out good planning grounds, then Birch Labour's suggestion of a national competition, a national architectural competition for the redevelopment of the Archery Ground site, I think would be very good. And as part of that competition, a planning brief is worked out, and that planning brief should include the maximum consultation with local residents. You'd call a day, wouldn't you? You'd call some big planning for real exercise, where everybody living in the area, or the real interest in the area, comes together, and we hammer out what we think, in conjunction with planners and people with knowledge and expertise, we hammer out what would the brief be that we think is appropriate for that site, and then you'd go out, we hope, for national competition to get top quality design to fit the quality of the architecture that Burton St Leonard's has handed down to us. That, I think, would be your strongest argument in planning terms, because it's only in planning terms that you were able to turn down a planning application. Strong as we may feel about many other things, nature of the applicant, their dirty deeds, whatever we think of them, it has to be a planning argument that has to win, and I think you've got strong planning grounds, you need to stick to those and argue the case very forcefully.
Planning law seems as complicated as a multi-headed hydra sometimes, but it is absolutely right that we have to approach it in that way, being very clear about the issues of planning in which we oppose it, not on sort of emotional issues, but on the fact that, however emotional it does feel, that it's about a density issue, that it is not acceptable in this area. I just observe politically that I think it's great that there are three parties represented here. Again, it's not a political issue, as Jeremy has said, but it is interesting that you do have, as the opposition group, this support of well-known representatives from all three parties, and I know that all three of us will be doing whatever we can to try and support you to get this application fundamentally changed so that we can get a better result. I also want to observe that some of you will have known that, seen that last night Richard Rogers won an award for his Maggie Centre building. And the whole point about that award was about the built environment, following up on Nick's point, being so important to people's mental welfare. The built environment is so important for people's mental welfare, their well-being. We mustn't ignore that. So I just want to add that, following on what Nick was saying, as a really important aspect of this application. We must get it right for all the residents, as well as all the new residents to be. Thank you very much.